Good afternoon, everybody. This is Bob from Carquinez Model Railroad Society with video number 2 from the Planning the Layout series. Right now on the screen, you're looking at something close to where we last left off, and this is West Sacramento, Sacramento Avenue, and Sims Recycling in the background. That right there is a modified drawing from where we initially started. I've been doing some work off camera, learning the software and not spending a lot of time recording everything. Plus I'm learning a new editing software, which I've actually lost some of the video that I recorded. Was able to recover somewhere because Camtasia is the second editing program that I use, and it keeps everything that you create, and I learned that about 20 minutes ago. So anyways, we're going to be taking a look here at Sacramento and the Sacramento station in the Sacramento area, and I'm going to be doing some editing here. Now this right here is as my original submission presented it. This included feedback from several key members, our general superintendent at the time, our scenery director at the time, and since then the positions turned over. We had an election in November, December, and we have new players in the on the planning committee. So anyways, we had a planning meeting yesterday. This is recorded on 5/4/17 Thursday, and the meeting was Wednesday. And at the very end of this video, I'll show you what was presented and what was discussed, and in the end, the next video will be the edits coming out of that meeting. Now, based on the feedback that I received between making the original submission on this presentation and the meeting yesterday, I'm making changes to the layout. The area to the left of what you're seeing, where those two buildings are, has already been approved, and that's going to be the McClellan Air Base. McClellan up in Sacramento used to be a military air base. It was retired in the early 90s in a base reduction, and the city took over the property, and now now it's warehousing, industrial jobs, a little bit of tech, some manufacturing over there, and it's still growing. Obviously, it has runway, airport, the fire district, and all their aircraft when there's fires up in the Sierra base out of that location. And it's very close to the Roseville rail yard. Along the southeast length of McClellan, east of Sacramento, runs right along the Union Pacific Main Line. The CP Main through Donner runs right along that I said southeast side of the industry area. So it's great train spotting. A big long straight stretch at milepost 90. I think it's 97.7 is right at the very east of McClellan. So if you are listening to scanner with Sacramento operations and you hear the trains hit the scanner, you're looking at approximately the opposite side of what we're modeling here. I mean, that is McClellan. So right here you're looking at the Sims design, and as I pretty close to where we left it on the last video with 8 cars, and I noticed that this industry was 60 inches long. One of the things I'm going to be modeling next, I'll be modeling McClellan next, is fresh as what do you call it? As the next stage in this Trainz series. Since it's been approved, I want to visualize it for everybody and see, work out, see if there's any kinks that need to be addressed, and based on how we model it. We've discovered that Trainz model railroading is pretty good for coming up with composition, which when I modeled this, or when I imaged this, created this representation, marking it out on the layout and presenting it to the Don, the scenery guy who presented the idea, with relationship to the large industry that it's next to, which is a grain elevator. The industries were almost the same size. The grain elevator is supposed to be a landmark industry in the aisle that it's at. And to the Davis side of that industry, there's 41 inches of open space to a warehouse that we call the Costco warehouse. That's right on the edge of Davis, and that kind of ends the industrial at Davis. Sort of represents what's there between downtown Davis and Mace Road. They've got a whole bunch of industries down there, and the warehouse sort of emulates that. And as I stated on the last video, the grain elevators are actually south of Sacramento, but because they're an integral part of railroading, we put them over here. That's a landmark structure. It's got its own yard, 8 feet long, and it's meant to be this great big monster where the prototype has absolutely nothing. So putting a 60-inch layout didn't really flow with that strategic plan, and so by reducing the track and reducing the industry from 60 inches down to approximately 44 to 52 inches, we'll put a buffer in there between that industry, between Sims here and the grain elevator there, which is only approximately a foot 18 inches as it was originally submitted. And now it'll be more on the order of 24 inches, possibly 30 inches maybe, which will balance out the whole area, and it'll improve the composition of the whole aisle, and it won't make our great big monster grain elevator appear smaller than it's intended to be. As a freestanding structure with no industries surrounding it, nothing for the eye to compare scale with, and consequently it's the plan is that we'll be able to put some buffer scenery in there with an orchard of trees, walnut orchard. We ended up going with what's drawn right there on a 2x2 situation. We still have some things to work out with where the switching lead comes off the siding there, and you'll see that on my next video, because I haven't yet started working on that and recording those changes. What you see right here is part of the video that was deleted, and that was converting this line in Sacramento Avenue from 1 to 2 industries. And the second industry is Continental Can, and we've moved the bakery away from Sacramento for the same reason. We don't want a tall industry making our big downtown city of Sacramento appear smaller, because the silos of that grain elevator ended up being juxtaposed against our actual city. So I could probably catch a photo of that in a future video. This right here is what I ended up doing off camera. This right here is a Sacramento Shops. You can see that the station's moved to the back corner. That's not going to change. This industry in the front and center is a food processor, frozen food processor, and then Ramen House is down here off to the very right of the screen. I've revised the drawing to improve the composition. The Sacramento Shops are closer to the station, and so I placed the building wall flats closer to the station. Not exactly like prototype, but it represents more of what's out there in this configuration, and the committee sort of agreed with that. So that's the way that's closer to what we're actually going to build. That leaves an open space where we can put a large industry illustrated here, or a large and tall industry is illustrated here. The former industry was intended to be heavy industry like Siemens or Ford or Goodyear Tire. We didn't have a specific plan, so the committee met in order to discuss it. This right here represents like a power plant, or just another heavy manufacturer, like hardware, furniture, a large furniture manufacturer that would have been correct to the 60s or 60s era. This right here represents just a tall industry. just like a large warehouse, a tire storage warehouse is Midwestern Railroader, so that's what comes to mind. If you model, you could put the Walthers hardware store right there. Trainz model railroading gives you some ideas, but what you do is you want to take a look at the continuity of the whole space to see what works. And you can certainly, if you go back and look at the 4 videos right here and the 4 photos, you'll see that each one has a different character. Now this is my favorite. This one here is going to be the RailX warehouse, where even though it looks kind of lonely right there, I'm going to put a lot of scenic details in there and really cloud up the space with high fidelity detail. This is the way they're going to go, but we're also going to take a look at moving this and the frozen food processor and see how that looks moving forward, and we'll talk about that on a future video. So this right here is the finished Sims layout with the field added. It's the track is 44, but the industry is still 60. In the next video, I'm gonna scoot that down a little bit and then put in the wheat fields. And this right here is where we'll conclude our video. I appreciate you taking the time out to watch, and I appreciate you taking up time me learning this editing software. Until the next video, have a great day.